Chapter 121, Xenozaldique. Hancock couldn't help asking Allan after seeing Gon's behavior, why isn't the kid avoiding these attacks? Allan shrugged and said, probably because he wants to prove that we aren't here to cause trouble. Hancock shook her head and said, that's very naive. It is. Allan smiled, but it's because of Gon's innocence that he can make real friends, right? Hancock snorted, obviously disagreeing with Allan's words. As a Shishibukai, she didn't have friends or allies. At this moment, Kalito saw that Gon didn't dodge her attacks and was slightly surprised. However, she didn't stop, and she regarded Gon's behavior as stupid. Another wind blade shot out of her fan and tore a new wound on Gon's body. Gon clenched his fist and tried his best to ignore the pain. His blood was already dripping on the floor, and the sight was terrifying. However, even with such severe injuries, Gon didn't fall. Kalito stared at Gon, who was panting. She almost exhausted her strength after so many wind attacks, but Gon didn't fall. Why don't you fight back? Kalito couldn't help the curiosity as she asked. Her voice was cold yet delicate. Gon replied with a weak voice, because you're Killua's sister, so I can't attack you. Idiot. As she heard Gon's words, Kalito couldn't understand his reason. Even if you're brother's friend, I won't be merciful. Kalito raised her fan and said, this will be the last attack. At this moment, someone from behind Kalito said, enough, Kalito. Hearing this voice, Kalito immediately stopped her fan from moving and looked behind. She saw a silver-haired old man walking with his hands behind his back. Grandpa? Why are you here? Kalito was a little surprised. At this time, Allan's eyes fell on the silver-haired old man. It was Zeno, Killua's grandfather. He was wearing a black and white robe with some words on them. Zeno moved toward Gon and asked, little kid, aren't you afraid of death? Hearing this, Gon raised his head and said, I'm afraid of death. Zeno then asked curiously, since you're afraid, why didn't you avoid Kalito's attacks? Because I want to see Killua. Gon replied. Zeno asked in a deep voice, are you really Killua's friend? Gon nodded heavily, well, of course, at least I think of Killua as my friend. What about Killua? Does he treat you as a friend? Zeno asked. I think he does. Gon said without hesitation. Zeno stayed silent for a bit and asked, boy, what's your name? Gon Freaks, you can call me Gon. Hearing his, Zeno's eyes changed as he looked at Gon more intently, your surname is Freaks. Yeah. Gon nodded. After receiving Gon's confirmation, Zeno looked at Gon deeply before saying, Gon, I'm Killua's grandfather, Zeno. Hello, Grandpa Zeno. Gon said politely. Gon, are those two friends of Killua as well? As he said this, Zeno looked at Hancock and Allan. Grandpa Zeno, they came with me. His name is Allan, and he saved Killua once. That woman is Allan's fiancée, the Snake Princess. Is that so? Zeno nodded thoughtfully before he looked at Hancock then at Allan. Pushing the fourth gate in seconds, using Mike as a mount, and freezing the butlers and maids into ice. You guys seem really capable. Allan looked at Zeno without fear. On the surface, Zeno seemed to compliment him, but in fact, he was slightly dissatisfied. Allan was helpless about that. He was just accompanying Gon and to find Killua. He didn't want to find trouble with the Zaldique. However, at this moment, the system gave him a choice. 1. Provoke Zeno and fight him. Reward, Golden Treasure Chest X1. 2. Insist on fighting Zeno. Reward, Wolf Fang Fist Style, Yamcha's fighting style from Dragon Ball. 3. Ignore Zeno and fight him. Reward, increase Nen by 10,000 points. Seeing those rewards, Allan directly said, Master, you must be joking. I just accompanied Gon to find Killua. If I offended you, please forgive me. Zeno said, of course you offended us. We, the Zaldique, have a few guests. As killers, most of our acquaintances are enemies. Allan smiled slightly, we are really not here to look for trouble. Zeno nodded and said, anyway, come in first. Gon lost a lot of blood. If we don't deal with it quickly, he might die. As Killua's grandfather, I don't want to see Killua's friend die like this. This old man seems to like Killua very much. After that, Allan took Gon and Hancock and followed Zeno into the villa. Upon seeing this, Kalito on the side couldn't help asking, Grandpa, will you really bring them inside? Zeno said, anyone who can pass the testing gate is a guest. Let the old man call the shots. Hearing this, Kalito didn't say anything else. Zeno is her grandfather. No matter how much she hated outsiders, she couldn't say anything to him. It seems like I can only look for mother. If mother knows that someone was looking for brother Killua, she would be very unhappy. Kalito found an excuse to leave Zeno's side. Zeno glanced at Kalito and shook his head. He already guessed what she wanted to do, but he didn't anything about it. Allan followed behind Zeno while thinking about a way to fight with Zeno. Chapter 122, Meeting Killua. Zeno was a superb professional assassin for a long time, and his power was unfathomable. But Allan wasn't worried about losing to Zeno. He was worrying if he could fight Zeno. Zeno was a killer, unlike the martial art idiot Netero. He is a businessman who doesn't do a losing deal. It's obviously impossible for a fight between warriors to unfold between them. Allan didn't want to provoke Zeno. After all, he was Killua's grandfather. But at the same time, he didn't want to give up the reward. If there is a chance, he wanted to fight Zeno. After thinking for a bit, Allan said, I have heard about you for so long, Master Zeno, and your reputation is impressive. Hearing this, Zeno waved his hand and said, this old man is just a killer. It's not a big deal. But I'm still somewhat famous in this line of work. If you want to kill someone, then for the sake of Killua, I will give you a 20% discount. Allan was speechless. Thank you, Master Zeno, but I don't have anyone I want to kill right now, Allan replied. In fact, with his current power, he doesn't need others to help him as he can deal with almost everyone himself. If there was someone Allan wanted to kill, it is Ryuudan, but he was confident in killing him easily if he appeared before him. Allan's current goal was Zeno, but he couldn't think of a good way to make Zeno fight him. After thinking for a bit, Allan spoke directly. Master Zeno, other than finding Killua, I also accompanied Gon to have a fight with you. Hearing this, Zeno shook his head, haha, I am sorry, I can't agree to this request. Why? Although Allan knew Zeno would say this, he was still asking for a reason. Zeno replied, this old man isn't a warrior, but a killer. I only accept assassination requests, and I don't like fighting uselessly. Allan nodded, I understand, but I still hope we can have a spar. Do you really want to fight me? Zeno stopped and looked straight at Allan. Yes, please fight me, Allan said without fear. Zeno looked at Allan deeply before he retracted his gaze and turned his back, and walked ahead. When Allan wondered what Zeno would say, the latter's voice came, this old man will think about it. Hearing this, Allan was overjoyed. Although Zeno didn't agree directly, his answer meant that he would probably agree. Gon looked at Allan as if he didn't understand and asked, Allan, why do you want to fight Killua's grandpa? Because that old man is powerful. As someone who wants to get stronger, I need to fight strong foes. It's kind of like training. You will understand later. Gon nodded and didn't ask anything else. He was here for Killua, so he wasn't interested in anything else. Hancock on the side glanced at Allan and said, it was the other old man last time, and now it's this old man. You seem to like fighting old man very much. Well, it because they are strong, Allan said embarrassedly. The one Hancock is talking about is obviously Netero. Hancock nodded and said, from his aura, he is indeed not ordinary. Allan smiled and said, the old man I fought last time is Netero, the Hunter Association chairman. And this is the top assassin in the Zaldik. By the way, let me tell you a secret. What secret? Hancock was a little curious. Allan said, that old man isn't ordinary. He looks younger than he should. What? Hancock was surprised. I mean, Netero is over 100 years old, and Zeno is around 70 years old. Compared to Chairman Netero, Zeno is a young man. Also, Chairman Netero belongs to Zeno's grandfather's generation. Hancock could only sigh, what a monster. Then she said, I also know a few old men, I think they are monsters as well. Allan smiled, are you talking about the Yonko, Whitebeard, the Hero Garb, and the Dark King Rayleigh? You, how do you know them? Hancock looked at Allan in surprise. Allan nodded, of course, they are the top powerhouses in the previous Pirates era. Although they are old, their power is still terrifying. Hancock couldn't help asking, how do you know this? Allan shrugged as a transmigrator. He, of course, knew characters like Whitebeard and the others. However, Allan looked at Hancock and said mysteriously, secret. Hearing this, Hancock said, I'm really curious about who you are now. You will know later. Allan laughed. However, Hancock will never know because Allan won't tell anyone about his secret. After entering a large living room, Zeno said, sit here for a while. This old man will go and see my grandson. Killua? Gon asked. Of course. Zeno smiled. At this time, a man wearing glasses and a butler's suit came to Allan and the others with tea. The road should have been long, and you may be thirsty, please have some tea. Allan recognized Gota, the chief butler of the Zaldik family. Thank you. Gon took the teacup and started drinking, as he was thirsty. Allan narrowed his eyes slightly. When Gota saw this, he asked, aren't you going to drink? Thanks, but we are not thirsty, Allan replied in a deep voice. Gota nodded and then said, you two are worried that I put something in the tea, right? Allan shook his head, the chief butler from the Zaldik family wouldn't use something like that, right? Gota's complexion changed slightly, do you know me? Allan smiled, only slightly. Gota was surprised because he has been in this place for 20 years and didn't leave the Zaldik ground that often. Did Master Killua tell you? Gota could only think about this. Allan shrugged and didn't deny anything since Gota guessed this on his own. Although Gota was still doubtful, he didn't ask anything else. At this moment, Gon clutched his head and said dizzily, I feel so dizzy, I really want to sleep. After a while, Gon collapsed on the sofa. Sure enough, something was added to the tea. Allan frowned and looked at Gota. Gota said, don't worry, it's not poison. He will wake up after a good sleep. So why did you do that? Allan asked curiously. It's just to test if you are here with bad intentions, Gota explained. Test? To see if you are here to find Master Killua or for another purpose. So what did you test exactly? Gon drank the tea from a stranger without any hesitation, which indicates he is a naive person. So it is concluded that he is here to come to find Master Killua sincerely. Allan nodded, as Gon was really naive. As for you, you're not Master Killua's friends. Gota said sharply as he looked at Allan and Hancock. Allan didn't deny it and shrugged, we are accompanying Gon. We really aren't friends with Killua. We also know that Gon is too naive. So as his temporary guardian, I should watch over him. Temporary guardian? Gota was a little surprised. Well, it's similar to a role model or a big brother. Allan said, and Gota nodded, then he asked, can you tell me how Master Killua and Gon met? I'm really curious. Ding. Make a choice. 1. Tell Gota about Gon and Killua. Reward, Silver Treasure Chest X1. 2. Refuse to tell anything to Gota. Reward, increase Nen by 1000 points. Allan directly decided on the first option since he had nothing to lose and said, okay, I will tell you everything I know. Then, I will listen intently, Gota said gratefully. Although he was just a butler, he watched Killua grow since he was a child, and his relationship with Killua surpassed that of an ordinary master-servant relationship. Gon and Killua met during the hunter exam, from the first phase of the exam till their duel, and Killua's surrender to make Gon pass the exam, Allan told Gota everything. After hearing Allan's words, Gota stayed silent. After a long time, he said, I didn't expect Master Killua to surrender so that Gon can win. I'm really impressed. Indeed, he was trained as a killer since he was a child, and he actually became a friend with someone as innocent as Gon, which is incredible, Allan said. So Gon came here to look for Master Killua. Is there anything he wants to tell him, or does he want to take him away? Gota asked. It should be both, Allan said. Gota said, Master Killua can leave if Master Silva allowed it. If he doesn't allow it, Master Killua won't be able to leave. Allan, who knew from the show that Silva would give his consent, wasn't worried about it. I think Killua will get his father's understanding and consent. Seeing how confident Allan was, Gota pushed his glass and asked, I don't know why you're confident, since Master Silva isn't an ordinary person. Allan replied, it doesn't matter. There is always one thing beyond all else. He is Killua's father, and a father and son understood each other. Hearing this, Gota nodded, as he felt that was reasonable. Indeed, Silva always treated his family harshly, but it was because he hoped for his children to excel. Killua was trained since he was a child and wasn't allowed to have friends. However, since he already made one, it will be a new experience for him. It was different from the cold assassin route. He would go with his friends and grow together with them. Half an hour later, Killua arrived with Zeno into the living room. "Hi, long time no see." Allan raised his hand and said hello. "Allan, you are here as well?" Killua asked in surprise. "I thought that Gon came here alone." "No way. I'm Gon's temporary guardian. I can't let him risk himself to come here alone. After all, your house is dangerous," Allan said jokingly. But it was the truth. With Gon's current power, it will be hard for him to see Killua, and he may even face danger. Killua also knew that his family was special, so he apologized. "Sorry, I made you run all the way here. By the way, what's wrong with Gon?" "He's just asleep," Gota said. "He fell asleep. Your butler put something in the tea as he wanted to test Gon's sincerity. As a result, Gon drank it without hesitation and without even being alert." Hearing this, Killua frowned and looked at Gota. "Gota, how can you treat my friend like that?" Gota was embarrassed and quickly bowed. "I'm very sorry. I did this because I care about Master Killua." Killua snorted coldly. "Don't do this next time, or I will hate you. I know who Gon is and whether he came here with an ulterior motive or not. He is a friend I recognize, and I won't allow anyone to hurt him." "Yes." Gota nodded as cold sweat oozed from his forehead. Killua could make Gota disappear with just one word after all. Killua turned toward Zeno and said, "Grandpa, I want to keep Gon and the others here for a few days, okay?" "Of course, no problem." Zeno nodded. "Thank you, Grandpa." Killua smiled heartedly and said to Gota, "Gota, prepare 2 rooms, please." 2. "Well, one for Gon and one for Allan and his fiancée, is that okay, Allan?" Killua asked. "That's fine." Gota efficiently worked and prepared 2 rooms for Allan and the others to rest. Outside the room, Killua said, "Allan, you can stay for a few days." Allan nodded and said, "Of course, it just happens that I have something to do." "What is it?" Killua asked curiously. Allan didn't hide anything and said, "I want to fight with your grandpa." "What?" Killua was taken aback. "Why are you fighting? Do you have some conflict with him?" "No." Allan shook his head and explained, "I just want to challenge your grandpa because as a warrior, I need to challenge stronger people to get stronger myself. But my grandpa probably won't accept." Killua said and explained, "He is a killer, not a warrior. He doesn't make a losing deal." Allan smiled, "I already asked him, and he said he would consider it. I think he will agree to fight with me." Chapter 123, Duel. Soon after, Gon woke up, and as he saw Killua, he was delighted. Killua was Gon's first true friend, in a sense. They were about the same age, and their personalities complemented each other. Killua was happy as well and wanted to play with Gon here for several days. At some point, Killua brought Gon to the courtyard to talk with him. But suddenly Gon said, "Killua, the last time we fought, you surrendered and gave up your chance to be a hunter directly, that makes me very concerned." Killua didn't expect Gon to talk so suddenly and replied, "That's because you won't admit defeat no matter what. I had to surrender to reserve my strength. And it doesn't matter now, since I also got hunter's license after that." "No, it's not about that." Gon shook his head, "It's because you think I'm not strong enough, and you didn't want to hurt me." "So, what do you want now, Gon?" Killua said seriously. "I want to fight again, Killua." Gon looked at Killua with determination. "Are you serious?" Killua asked. "Of course, I come here to look for you and have a fight with you as well." Killua lowered his head and thought for a bit. "Killua, I have gone through special training with Allan. Now I'm stronger than I was in the hunter exam." Killua looked up at Gon and said, "So, you want to say that you can beat me now?" "Yes." Gon said confidently. Killua replied, "Idiot, how can you defeat me when you didn't finish your training?" "Although I didn't finish my training, I have something that I mastered before Killua, and I'm a step ahead in it." "What?" Killua frowned as he was thinking about something before his eyes widened as he asked, "Are you talking about Nen?" Gon nodded, "Yes, I can use Nen to mend the gap between our strength. Hearing this, Killua looked down. He experienced Nen before, and it's undeniable a magical power that greatly enhances the user's power. Now since Gon mastered Nen before him, he was indeed strong enough to fight equally with him. After thinking for a while, Killua finally said, "Okay, Gon, since you really want to fight me that much, we will have a match. Let me see how much you improved in the past few months. I won't let you down, Killua." Gon's eyes were shining. Gon was a very competitive person, so even if Killua is his friend, he wouldn't go easy. The news about Gon and Killua's match reached Zeno and Allan. Soon everyone who is in the Zaldik villa knew about it. For a little while, the Zaldik villa became lively. After all, Killua was a candidate for the seat of the patriarch of the Zaldik family. Although he was young, his assassination technique has reached a professional level, and his future potential was immeasurable. And now, Gon, an outsider, wanted to fight with Killua, which made most people think that Gon was ignorant. Killua and Gon found Zeno and Allan, respectively, and had the two be witnesses of their fight. Allan naturally had no problem, and in fact, he knew this would have happened sooner or later. But Zeno looked surprised. He didn't understand why Gon and Killua will fight even though they were friends. However, he still agreed to the battle between the two. In a huge arena, both Gon and Killua started their battle. Their witnesses were Alana and Zeno, who respectively supported Gon and Killua. Allan glanced at Zeno and asked, "Master Zeno, who do you think is stronger, Gon or Killua?" Zeno pondered for a bit before he said, "Well, there is a good chance that Killua will win." "What's your reason for saying that?" "Killua was trained to be a killer, and now he is a competent assassin. Even his techniques are first-rated. Whether it is speed or skills, he is outstanding. And the most important point is that Killua is only 12 this year, and there is a lot of room for growth. His future potential is unfathomable. I'm not the only one who thinks like this, but most of the family is the same." Allan nodded. "Killua does indeed have great potential, but I think Gon isn't worse." Hearing this, Zeno nodded in agreement unexpectedly. As a superb assassin, his eyes can see many things, and he could see how extraordinary Gon's body was. Even more, Gon released an extraordinary amount of Nen, which really surprised Zeno. To master Nen to such a degree at such a young age, his future is indeed boundless. Allan coughed and said, "I was the one who taught him. But Gon's talent is indeed high. His talent won't lose to Killua." Zeno said, "It seems that Killua made a good friend." "Exactly." Allan smiled. At this time, a big fat man with a white shirt walked to their side and holding a bag of chips in his hands. He was stuffing chips while watching the fight. Allan glanced at him and recognized him instantly. It was Milwaukee. Although this big guy wasn't good at fighting, he is a technology genius and was very good at handling guns and other things. Of course, since he is a Zaldik, he does have decent proficiency in assassination techniques. But because he has such a large body, he can't be flexible like Killua. "Grandpa, that little kid named Gon is quite powerful. Killua won't win easily," Milwaukee said. "Humph, Milwaukee, you should have some confidence in your cousin." Cold sweat leaked from Milwaukee's forehead as he said, "Grandpa, of course, I have confidence in Killua. But that kid is really extraordinary. Judging from Killua's appearance, it's not an easy fight." At this time, Allan said, "The final victor might not be Killua." Hearing this, Milwaukee looked at Allan and walked beside him. "In that case, do you want to make a bet?" Allan glanced at him and asked, "What are you betting?" "We will bet 100 million Jenny. If Gon wins, you win, and if Killua wins, I win." Ding! Make a choice. 1. Agree to Milwaukee's bet. Reward: increase Nen by 3000 points. 2. Reject Milwaukee. Reward: increase Nen by 1000 points. 3. Agree to the bet and win. Reward: golden treasure chest x1. After thinking about the benefit of the three options, Allan smiled and said, "Then I will bet on Gon and win." "Okay, I will bet on Killua then," Milwaukee said. "I will definitively win." "Not necessarily." At this time, the fight between Gon and Killua entered a stalemate. Gon relied on Nen to increase his power, speed, and defense. On the other hand, Killua relied on his techniques and speed. Well, it's good to master Nen at such a young age. Zeno appreciated Gon's talent. Chapter 124, way over his head. The duel between Gon and Killua lasted for nearly a day, and the result was unexpected. Neither of them lost. Even though they were exhausted, they didn't fall or concede defeat. Even when they hurt all over, they were still fighting one punch each. It was a competition of willpower. If the fight continues, their lives would be at risk, so Allan and Zeno directly interfered to stop the match. The match ended in a draw. Gon looked at Killua and said, "Killua, next time, we must decide the winner." Killua nodded and said, "Of course, I won't lose to you." Because the fight between them ended in a draw, the bet with Milwaukee didn't have a winner. After Gon and Killua left, Allan said, "Master, they are finished. It should be our turn now, right?" Zeno thought for a while before he said, "Well, since you want to fight this old man, then I will make an exception today and have fun with you." Allan laughed, "I'm looking forward to it." Milwaukee, on the side, was surprised and said, "What? You guys will fight?" "Oh, you can be our witness," Allan said. Milwaukee clenched his fist and said, "Are you kidding? You want to fight my grandfather?" Allan shrugged and said, "Yeah, why? I can't." "Of course, you can't." Milwaukee looked at Zeno and said, "My grandpa is a top-notch assassin. You are about the same age as my older cousin Illumi. You belong to that generation. How can you qualify to challenge my grandfather?" Allan wasn't angry as he looked at Milwaukee. "So, you mean that I'm getting ahead of myself?" "That's right." Milwaukee nodded and said again, "It's not that I look down on you, but I think you're not qualified to challenge my grandpa now. In terms of seniority, you are a junior. And in terms of power, you're less likely my grandpa's opponent. So, I advise you not to fight him and stop that stupid behavior." Allan couldn't help but laugh at the end of Milwaukee's speech. "What are you laughing at?" Milwaukee asked. "Nothing." Allan shook his head and smiled before he seriously said, "It's because your grandpa is strong that I want to challenge him. Whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. That's my choice." Seeing that Allan was determined, Milwaukee snorted coldly, "Well, since you insist on challenging Grandpa, then I will wait to see how he will get you off your high horse." After this, Milwaukee looked at Zeno and said, "Grandpa, teach that guy a lesson." Zeno glared at Milwaukee and said, "Shut up and just watch from the side." "Yes." Milwaukee no longer said anything and retreated to the side. "Please, go ahead, Allan," Zeno said. "Sorry to offend you." When they both joined the arena, Zeno said, "I won't bully you. You can go ahead and have the first strike." Allan shook his head and said, "Master, you're my senior. It's better if you attack first." "Hee, all right then. Since you are so sincere, this old man will attack first." As soon as he said this, Zeno disappeared. Yes, he completely disappeared without a trace. But it was only an illusion, using extreme speed to make it seem that he disappeared. In the next moment, Zeno appeared in front of Allan and attacked him directly with his knife hand. Allan's observation haki already caught up to Zeno even though the latter was fast. With a shift of his body, Allan directly avoided Zeno's attack, and while dodging, he lifted his left foot and kicked Zeno. Zeno blocked Allan's kick with his right hand and used his other hand to aim his hand, which seemed like an eagle's claw at Allan's neck. Allan instantly moved his head back to escape Zeno's claw, which made Zeno surprised that his attack failed. After this brief exchange, both made some distance. Zeno was looked at Allan sharply. Through this brief encounter, he reevaluated Allan again. Allan was stronger than he imagined. The response speed is like he was reading Zeno's moves ahead of time. "This old man is really strong," Allan said as his eyes gleamed with excitement. Allan felt that he was facing a viper instead of a human. "You're not bad, you can avoid my attacks, but this time, I'm going to be serious." Zeno started walking toward Allan step by step while staring at him, which made Allan feel extreme pressure. In the next instant, Zeno disappeared as he rushed at Allan. Boom! 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 The two started moving too fast for Milwaukee to see, and even the air was vibrating with each exchange. Milwaukee looked at the arena with wide eyes as he couldn't capture both figures. "They're too fast. That guy can actually keep up with Grandpa's speed and his fighting back. How is he so strong?" Milwaukee was shocked. Although he could see that Allan was strong, he didn't think he was strong enough to challenge his grandfather. He was even more shocked since he could tell that Allan was even stronger than Illumi. Chapter 125, Zeno's Power. Allan's and Zeno's figures appeared and constantly disappeared in the arena as they exchanged blows. Both of them pushed their speed to the extreme and fought fiercely. They only used the most basic fighting skills without using any abilities. Boom! 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 Allan's fist constantly collided with Zeno's palms, produced loud sounds of metal hitting metal. Suddenly, their aura erupted, Zeno's purple gold aura and Allan's dark blue. Their collision was like a gorgeous star in the sky. After the collision, they separated. The two stood 10 meters apart with their eyes fixed on each other. Zeno sighed and said, "I didn't think you'd be so strong at such a young age. Compared to this old man, you're talented." Allan smiled, "You praise me too much." Zeno then said solemnly, "I will be serious next, be careful." Allan nodded, "I'm ready, sir." Ha! With a low shout, Zeno's nen condensed into his hand as he sent a palm strike toward Allan. Allan knew that Zeno was a transmutter like himself, but the latter used an emitter's attack. He was really strong. Allan waved his hand in front of him and directly created an ice wall to block Zeno's attack. Boom! Zeno's attack hit the ice wall, negating it. At this time, Zeno's eyes flashed with surprise. Ice! Is he a transmutter? To verify this, Zeno sent 2 attacks toward Allan simultaneously, which Allan faced without panic. Allan simply waved his hands and created 2 icicles, and sent them directly at Zeno's attacks. With a loud bang, both attacks cancelled each other in the air. Is his nen turning into ice? It seems that he should be a transmutter or else he is a specialist. Zeno thought. Then let's see if you can deal with this. Zeno stepped forward with his left hand behind his back, and his right lifted in a knife shape. Nen erupted and covered Zeno's extended hand. Seeing this, Allan was surprised as he thought, "That's quite amazing. If the old man stabs me, my aura alone can't block against that, but I could stop it if I add armament haki. Still, it's not worth it." Allan decided not to contend head-on with Zeno. Rankyaku. Allan sent an air slash using Rankyaku, which made Zeno's astonished. He never thought that Allan, who was a transmutter, could use a long-range attack. Zeno jumped and avoided Allan's Rankyaku. As the air slash hit the wall behind Zeno, it directly split it apart. Zeno's complexion changed slightly. Allan sent several other Rankyakus toward him, and Zeno couldn't avoid all of them, so instead of dodging, he made a claw with his hands and waved them fiercely. Zeno's hands resembled dragon claws as he tore through the Rankyaku. As expected of a top-notch assassin. Allan appreciated Zeno's power. Zeno realized that Allan was stronger than he thought. If that's the case, let's try this. As he said this, Zeno put his right foot forward, bowed his body slightly, formed a claw with his hand, and stretched his index and middle finger. His thumb and ring finger were retracted, making his hand resemble a sword. Seeing Zeno's posture, Allan was slightly surprised. Could he intend to use that? Sure enough, as Allan thought, Zeno's nen suddenly turned into a dragon head. Allan narrowed his eyes, readying himself to block this attack. In the next second, Zeno shouted, "Dragon Lance!" Roar! A golden-purple dragon directly rushed at Allan. Allan directly jumped into the air. "Where do you think you're going?" Zeno waved his hand, and the dragon immediately turned toward Allan in mid-air. Allan looked at the dragon indifferently and quickly formed icicles to meet with it. Roar! The dragon roared and directly shattered the icicles Allan threw at it. Allan directly returned to the ground and slammed both hands on the ground, creating 5 ice walls. "Come on, let me see how strong that dragon is." Allan sneered. Boom! The first ice wall broke, the second ice wall broke, the third. Haha! Break it! Zeno pushed forward as he controlled the dragon. Only 2 ice walls were remaining, and as soon as they collapse, the dragon would reach Allan. Allan didn't panic even though the last of the ice walls were smashed. Instead, he smiled slightly and said, "It's about time." Roar! A giant glacier dragon appeared above Allan's head, and under the latter's control, it collided with Zeno's dragon. An avalanche sound was produced as soon as the 2 dragons collided with each other. Chapter 126, Double Reward. The collision between the glacier dragon and the golden purple dragon caused a massive explosion. Many in the Zaldik family ground felt the tremor and were startled. Zeno was the most surprised at this moment. Zeno and Allan looked at each other after the explosion resided. After a few moments of silence, Zeno said, "It looks like this old man lost." Allan was a little surprised at hearing this. "Master Zeno, are you giving up now?" Allan knew that it was at most a tie, and they both were unharmed, which made him puzzled by Zeno's words. Zeno explained, "Although it looks like we are equally matched, you can beat this old man at such a young age, which proves your power. You should know that when this old man was your age, I wasn't as strong as you are. Moreover, I can see that you still have other things ready. In other words, you went easy and didn't use all of your power when facing me. That shows how strong you are. If we continue to fight, I might lose even after going all out. So it's my loss." Allan didn't expect Zeno to give up so easily, but he knew that Zeno was old, and he wasn't Netero, who could still be so powerful even after passing 100 years. Allan also knew that Zeno still preserved 30% of his power, at least. However, since Zeno didn't want to fight anymore, Allan didn't insist on continuing. As a result, the fight ended in Allan's victory. Milwaukee couldn't believe that his grandfather lost and looked at Allan in surprise. His previous arrogance fell. There is no way he could maintain that haughty air in front of him when he is so young and already won against his grandfather. Ding! You successfully provoked Zeno, fought him, and won. Reward, golden treasure chest, wolf fang fist. What? I got 2 rewards. Allan was shocked. Is it because I insisted on fighting Zeno and also provoked him? Allan happily took the reward. The wolf fang style was Yamcha's fighting style from Dragon Ball. The moves of this style are simple and crude. It was simply a style that imitated wolf attacks. Even though it was simple, it was a fierce style, and it made Allan satisfied. Next came the golden chest, which wasn't the same as a mysterious treasure chest because the probability of something good coming out was 100%. Ding! You opened a golden treasure chest and obtained the pure version of the A-level ninjutsu, Chidori. Ah! I got Chidori! Allan was so excited that he almost yelled out loud. The information about Chidori poured inside his brain, and he instantly mastered it. The Chidori was in a class ninjutsu that formed lightning around the hand of the user. It's named Chidori due to the sound it makes, which resembled 1,000 birds chirping. Although it's somewhat hard to control due to the tunnel vision from the speed it requires, it is an assassination technique. But if it hits its target, it's a one-shot kill technique. Allan slowly raised his right hand and opened his palm. After a short while, blue light emerged from his hand. The chirping of birds filled the place as lightning covered Allan's hand. This was the Chidori. Zeno saw Chidori and was stunned. That's lightning. Allan nodded. It's called Chidori. It seems dangerous. I can tell that it would cause quite the damage if it hits. Seeing Zeno's look, Allan smiled and dispersed the Chidori. Zeno looked deeply at Allan and said, "Fortunately, I gave up early. Otherwise, it would have been bad if that hit me." "Master Zeno, we are just sparring to be friends, so why would I use something like that in a spar?" Allan said. Zeno nodded and turned around. "You're very strong. How about becoming an assassin?" Allan was stunned for a bit as he didn't expect Zeno would ask this. After thinking about it, he said, "Does it bring a lot of money?" Zeno was stunned for a moment, as he didn't expect Allan to ask something like this, then he smiled and said, "Haha, of course, you can make a lot of money. Otherwise, how would the Zaldik family survive for so long?" "That's true." Allan nodded. He didn't know how long the Zaldik family stood in the world, but he was certain that Zeno's grandfather was an assassin as well as the strongest man known in the world. So Killua was already a 5th generation of the assassin family. Allan didn't know how much money the Zaldik got, but it should be a vast fortune. But they are the top assassins in the world. Their income can't be compared to ordinary assassins. Seeing Allan's doubt, Zeno said, "Ordinary assassins can't make much money because there are 2 things that are needed to be a professional assassin." "What are those 2 things?" Allan asked curiously. Zeno said earnestly, "To become a professional assassin, you need to be strong because if you're not, you won't be able to finish the mission, and you need to be famous. If you're not famous, you won't be able to receive a good mission and only go to the black market looking for small targets that didn't bring much money. Only by accumulating fame can you make a living from this profession. I see. Allan nodded in understanding. Zeno said, with your current power, you're more than enough to join the business. The only thing you lack is fame. No one will know about you, and you won't receive good missions. Allan raised his head and said, in other words, I must start as an unknown assassin and climb the ranks. Chapter 127, Noonan Ability. Zeno said, newcomers entering this industry start from the bottom, but with your power, you don't need to do that. Allan asked, so, you're going to help me at the start? I can get you acquainted with a few bosses that can pay good money, Zeno explained. Allan nodded. He is now a professional hunter. If he changes his job, it wouldn't be good for him. Seeing Allan hesitating, Zeno patted his shoulder and said, with your power, I can guarantee that you will become famous in no time. How about it, are you interested? Ding. Please make a choice. 1. Accept Zeno's offer and become a professional assassin. Reward, increase NN by 10,000 points. 2. Accept Zeno's offer, and become an assassin driven by interest. Reward, ability treasure chest x1. 3. Reject Zeno's offer and explain that you're not interested in becoming an assassin. Reward, 10 million Jenny. Allan's heart pounded in his chest as he saw the second option. It seems like he can gain an ability from that treasure chest, which he was greatly interested in. Allan decisively chose the second option and said, well, I can't become a professional assassin since I'm a professional hunter now. Instead, assassination will be my side job. I will accept the jobs I'm interested in. Zeno nodded, well, that is also good. You can retain your original occupation and have a side job. Then let's do it like that for the time being. If you want anything from me, just ask me. Allan and Zeno took their phones and added each other's contact members. After that, Zeno went with Milwaukee after saying he'd contact Allan directly later. Seeing Zeno leave, Allan couldn't wait and instantly opened the treasure chest. Ding! You obtained a specialist's ability, Devour. Allan's eyes lit up as he looked at the description of the Devour. Devour, after activating this ability, the user will be able to devour the target's NN and enhance his own with no upper limit to the process. There is a certain chance to obtain the target's NN ability after devouring his NN. Risk, when activating this ability, the user will be in a state of Zetsu and can't use NN. Also, if the target has made an oath or has some lingering obsession, there is a significant risk for a backlash to occur. Allan frowned. This ability was pretty good as it can enhance his NN greatly by swallowing the NN of others. And there is no limit to devouring, and there is a chance to obtain the target's NN ability, which was great, but the shortcoming of this ability is obvious. He didn't care about Zetsu since he has the Ice Fruit and many other abilities he can use without NN, but the problem was getting the target's oaths and obsessions. The oaths can provide great power to the user but at high risk. The first person who used an oath in the show was Kurapika. He limited himself to use his chains against the spiders, which provided him with great power when facing them. The second was Gon, who sacrificed his future and everything to obtain the power to defeat Pito. The third was Pito, who Gon killed, but due to her fear of Gon threatening the Ant King, and her loyalty to him, she activated her NN after death, which can be said as her obsession to protect her king. The fourth was Hisoka, who used an oath before he died to Crollo and, as a result, was resurrected after. Allan had quite the impression of the oath. Therefore, devouring one will be dangerous. The Devour ability is a double-edged sword. He had to be careful on who to use it or else it will bring him a great risk. Chapter 128, Leaving the Zaldik Family. 2 days later, Allan took Hancock and Gon to leave the Zaldik family. Gon, Killua won't come. Seeing that Killua didn't come, Allan asked Gon in confusion. Gon shook his head and said, I don't know, I already told Killua, but he said that if he doesn't show up by noon, then we can go alone. Allan nodded and looked at the time. It was 11:30 a.m. If Killua didn't show up after half an hour, it means that he won't be going with them. It means that he wasn't allowed to leave the Zaldik family. Allan's guess was on the money since, currently, Killua was inside the mansion talking to his father. Dad, I want to go with Gon. What about work? Silva asked. I'm still going to work even when outside, Killua said. Well, you can go then. Really? Killua didn't expect his father to agree so readily to his request. Silva said sternly, of course. Killua, you've grown up, and I can't just lock you up inside our home, like what father used to do to me. You have your own future in life, and you decide what you want to do with it. Hearing this, Killua was a little stunned. He didn't expect that his father would be this understanding. Silva's words moved him. Finally, Silva stood up and deeply bowed toward Silva and said, "Dad, thank you, I won't let you down." Silva's unsmiling face showed a slight smile, and he waved his hand. "Well, go, don't let your friends wait." "Goodbye, Dad." Killua turned around and left. Silva's face turned serious the moment Killua was gone. In the courtyard, Allan, Gon, and Hancock were waiting patiently. "It seems that the silver-haired kid won't come," Hancock said. Gon was somewhat disappointed as he agreed with Hancock. Allan glanced at the time, and it was indeed close to noon, but Killua still didn't show up. At this moment, Allan felt something and raised his head to look at the mansion and said, "Killua is here, Gon." "Really?" Gon looked up in surprise. Sure enough, a white figure quickly came down from the mountain toward the courtyard. At this time, Gota was waiting with Allan and the others in the courtyard and other butlers. Allan glanced around and found Canary amongst them. When Killua appeared, the solemn faces showed rare softness because most of the butlers and maids loved Killua sincerely. "Killua, you're really here. This is great." Gon stepped forward excitedly and hugged Killua. Killua wasn't adapt to Gon's enthusiasm and said, "Ahem, people are watching, please let me go, Gon." Gon let go and said, "Killua, are you going with us?" "Well, of course, my dad approved," Killua replied happily. At this time, Gota walked over and said, "It's great. Master Killua, I didn't expect the Patriarch to permit you to go out." Killua nodded and said, "Thank you for taking care of me, Gota. I will take care of myself from now on, so don't worry." As they walked out, a giant dog was lying at the door. It was Mike. "I will let Mike take you back to the gate," Gota said. "Thank you, Gota." The four of them jumped on top of Mike. After a short while, they reached the gate and jumped down. Gon said, "Killua, when I came in to look for you, I opened 4 gates, but the gate said that you could open 3 gates, is that your limit?" "Of course not," Killua denied. "If I try my best, I can open 4 gates as well." "Really? Killua, you still didn't learn Nen, so it won't be easy to open 4 gates," Gon said suspiciously. He was suspicious because he used all of his strength along with Nen and could barely do it when he pushed the 4th gate. Killua didn't know how to use Nen yet, and it wasn't a simple matter to only use pure strength. "Since you don't believe me, I will open them now." With that said, Killua took a step forward and took a deep breath, and put his hand on the testing gate. And with a low shout, Killua's arms bulged as he used his full power. He instantly pushed the 1st and 2nd gate, and after a few seconds, he pushed the 3rd. At this time, he was trying to push the 4th gate open. "Come on!" Gon encouraged him. Allan was also surprised because he didn't expect Killua to be so strong. Boom! The 4th gate was finally pushed open. Afterward, Killua collapsed while clasping his hands weakly as he felt exhausted. Killua's potential and strength was really something Allan could look forward to. Chapter 129, Hisoka. 2 days later, Allan and the others booked an aircraft, and their destination was the Heavens Arena. Killua was the one who suggested going to the Heavens Arena, as he visited that place when he was 6 years old with his father to train. The Heavens Arena was a paradise for fighters, as fighters from all around the world gathered there. It was an excellent place to train for Gon and Killua, who wanted to get stronger. On the aircraft, Gon and Killua were drinking juice while talking about their childhood. Allan was older than both, so he wasn't interested much, so instead, he brought Hancock to the rest area. "What a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you here," someone said behind Allan. Hearing this voice, Allan turned around in surprise. He saw Hisoka playing with his cards. "Hisoka? Why are you here?" "It's a coincidence," Hisoka replied. "A coincidence?" Allan didn't think so. "Hisoka, I'm going to the Heavens Arena. What about you?" Allan looked at Hisoka and said, "I seriously suspect that you're following us now." Hisoka looked uncertain before saying, "Could it be you're going to the Heavens Arena as well?" "Allan, exactly." "Oh? It's entirely a coincidence. I'm not following you there, Hisoka said with a smile. Allan saw Hisoka and could tell that the latter wasn't lying, so he said, it does seem like a coincidence. By the way, are you alone here? Isn't Illumi with you? We separated after the hunter exam. We haven't seen each other since then already, but we call each other sometimes. He is on a mission. Unexpectedly, Hisoka answered Allan honestly. Illumi was a professional assassin, and he only got the hunter's license for his job. Hisoka looked around and saw that only Allan and Hancock were there and was a little curious. By the way, are you alone with your fiancé? Where's Gon? Allan said in a deep voice, you came for Gon after all. Although I like fruits like Gon, I didn't come for him. I was just curious about what he is doing. Well, I can tell you, he is chatting with Killua over there. Oh? Killua's here as well. Hisoka was a little surprised. They're going to the heavens arena as well? Interesting, it seems like it won't be a boring journey. Seeing Hisoka so excited, Allan didn't react at all. With his current power, he is no longer afraid of Hisoka. Therefore, it didn't matter what he wanted to do as long as he didn't go too far. But looking at Hisoka, Allan knew that he would likely attack Gon and Killua. At this time, the system's voice echoed in his head. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Let Hisoka help train Gon and Killua. Reward, raise Non. 2. Prevent Hisoka from fighting Gon and Killua. Reward, fire release, fireball technique. Raise Non was better. Allan directly looked at Hisoka and said, by the way, Hisoka, I will trouble with you something. What is it? Hisoka asked puzzledly. Allan replied without hesitation, I want you to help me train Gon and Killua a little bit. Training. Hisoka frowned and looked weirdly at Allan as if he didn't expect such a request. Allan said again, just teach them. Why are you asking me? Hisoka asked. The two of them are going to the heavens arena to train, and you can threaten them 1, but don't go too far. Just make them realize they are still too weak. So that what you mean? Hisoka understood Allan's plan. He wanted to borrow Hisoka's help to strike Gon and Killua's current pride and make them grow up. But that wasn't good for Hisoka since he will be a target for Gon and Killua. Although Hisoka didn't mind it very much, he wasn't happy to be used that way. Hisoka, what do you think? Can you help me with this? Allan asked since Hisoka didn't reply. Hisoka raised his head and said, I don't think I will agree. Allan instantly replied, don't forget that you owe me a favor. Hisoka directly froze and remembered that he did owe Allan a favor. It seems like there is such a thing. Okay, I will do it. Allan nodded, well, the matter is in your hands then. No problem, leave Gon and Killua to me. I will help them grow. Hisoka smiled evilly. Allan knew that Hisoka was weird, but he wasn't worried much about Gon and Killua. Even if he went too far, Allan can intervene and stop him. By the way, can you ask why you want me to do this? In the heavens arena, there is no shortage of strong opponents. In fact, you can even do it yourself, so why ask me? Allan shrugged and replied, because you're more suitable. I'm more suitable? Hisoka asked puzzledly. Allan nodded, well, you look more like a villain. Hisoka was dumbfounded, I thought that I looked kind. I didn't think I looked like a villain. I'm so sad. Allan patted his shoulder and said, anyway, I will leave that matter to you. But you shouldn't appear in front of Gon and Killua for the time being. Hisoka nodded regretfully. Well, I will surprise them in the heavens arena then. After saying this, Hisoka left. At the same time, Allan received the reward from the system. Ranzigen. Instantly, a blue ball of energy appeared in Allan's palm. Raise Non was in a class technique much like Chidori. While Chidori causes damage to the surface of the body, Raise Non messes up the insides completely. Hancock, beside Allan, looked at the Raise Non and said, what kind of skill is that? It looks dangerous. Where are you learning those things? Allan smiled, this is called Raise Non. As for where I learned it, that's a secret. By the way, do you want the two kids to fight against that Hisoka person? He seems very dangerous. As expected of you, you have good eyes. Hisoka indeed is dangerous, but there is no need to worry that he will do anything since he promised to help. You should know that the stronger the man, the less he would break a promise. At this time, Gon and Killua shuddered at the same time. They looked at each other and felt numb, as if someone sold their souls to the devil. Chapter 130, Heaven's Arena. The Heaven's Arena was on the same continent as the Republic of Padokia, Killua's Zaldiq country, but on the opposite side of the continent on the eastern part. After riding the aircraft for a day, Allan and the others arrived at the city where the Heaven's Arena was located. Since it was late, the four found a hotel nearby to stay the night temporarily. Killua and Gon shared a room, and Allan shared one with Hancock. The next day, after eating breakfast, the four of them took a bus and went to the Heaven's Arena. The Heaven's Arena was the fourth tallest building globally, with a height that reaches 991 meters and 251 floors. Almost all of the Heaven's Arena floors have a battle ring in them, and the fighters could only go to the upper floors when they win their fights in the arena. According to data, more than 1 million fighters are gathering here from all around the world. In addition to that, at least 4,000 fighters come and go each day, which brings this place's popularity. Half an hour later, Allan and the others got out of the bus one after the other. The tower seemed to reach the sky when they stood in front of it. Wow! This is the Heaven's Arena? It's so tall. Gon looked like a country bumpkin who just came out of a mountain somewhere and never seen the world before. However, no one can really blame him because even Allan and Hancock felt awe when looking at the tower. Hancock said, "This is the first time I see such a majestic building. This is the Heaven's Arena." Allan sighed. You can only feel this shock when standing in front of the tower personally. Killua wasn't shocked since he's been here before, so he directly said, "Let's go register on the first floor." The registration office was located on the first floor with 5 reception windows. Each one of them had a long line. The lines reached outside into the hall. "Whoa, there are so many people!" Gon exclaimed in surprise. 4,000 people register every day in the Heaven's Arena after all, Allan explained. It hasn't changed at all. Killua sighed as he remembered the first time he came here. "Let's get in line." Gon and Killua directly started lining up. "What are you going to do?" Allan looked at Hancock and asked. Hancock was attracting gazes from all over the place. It was like this everywhere they went. Allan has long been accustomed to the envious and jealous gazes. After all, Hancock was a beauty that can destroy an empire. Of course, they can only look from a distance since they knew their worth. To be worthy of such a woman, a man can't be simple. And Allan was the man beside her, which means that they can't mess with him. Although he looked young, he was handsome, and his face can match that of Hancock. Hancock was lazy to deal with them, so she looked at Allan and said, "You go in line, I won't." Allan nodded as he knew that Hancock wasn't interested in this place. She was only here because Allan was here. 2 hours later, Allan, Gon, and Killua finally registered and became official fighters in the arena. According to the rules, all participants must fight a preliminary match on the first floor. The 3 of them directly headed toward the vast area on the first floor, which contained many fighting rings. There were 16 fighting rings on the first floor, which means that 32 participants will fight in each round. Each participant had 3 chances to fight, and the judges would determine which floor the participant would ascend to. The better the performance, the higher the floor. The best can be directly promoted to the 199th floor. Participation numbers were issued to each participant. Killua's number was 2054, and Gon's was 2055. As for Allan, his number was 2068. When Allan brought Hancock to the fighting hall, Killua and Gon's fights were already arranged. They were fighting middle-aged men. Gon only used his right hand and pushed hard to knock out his opponent, while Killua knocked them with a chop to the back of their head. Gon was directly assigned to the 50th floor. And since Killua had already participated before, the referee appointed Killua to the 180th floor. However, he didn't want to get ahead of Gon, so he refused and requested to be assigned to the 50th floor like Gon. "You performed well," Allan said. "If we can't even pass the first floor, then it will be really awkward." Killua shrugged. After a while, Allan heard his number being called and said, "It's my turn. I will be back soon." Both Gon and Killua expressed sympathy for Allan's opponent. Sure enough, Allan entered the ring and came out in less than 3 seconds. His opponent was someone famous and strong, but a light palm strike knocked him out. The referee directly decided that Allan can directly go to the 100th floor. However, he did the same thing as Killua and stayed on the 50th floor. Chapter 131, Zushi. After finishing their fights, Allan and the other directly ascended to the 50th floor of the Heavens Arena. Several people were on there handing over the tickets given to them by the referee. In the Heavens Arena, you get a bonus on each fight below the 200th floor. Every winner on the 50th floor can get 50,000 Jenny as a reward. And the higher the floor, the more money they received. According to Killua, he reached the 190th floor the last time, and he received about 200 million Jenny. With such a huge bonus, even Allan was excited. 200 million Jenny isn't a small sum. Allan, Gon, and Killua arrived at the waiting area for the fighters on the 50th floor, while Hancock was invited to the staff's audience area since she wasn't a participant. Many participants looked quite fearsome, and they even released their killing intent without holding back. Allan and the others didn't feel anything because they already know how to restrain their aura, and the weak killing intent being released didn't bother them in the slightest. People who can't control themselves may seem strong to ordinary pedestrians, but they were just an empty shell to an expert. Soon, Allan and the others were called for their fight. Killua's opponent was a middle-aged man named Zul. Killua didn't bother with his opponent and directly chopped him on the neck from behind, intending on knocking him out, but to his surprise, Zul was stunned and didn't faint. Killua quickly used his assassination technique and once again appeared behind Zul and chopped again. This time, he used about 1/3 of his power, which should be enough to knock Zul out. But to his shock, Zul didn't fall, and at this time, Killua realized that Zul was using Nen to defend against his attacks. Although Killua didn't learn Nen yet, he knows that Nen can improve power and defense since he fought with Gon last time. Killua looked at him and said, "Do you think that I can't knock you out because you're using Nen?" After saying this, Killua quickly rushed towards Zul, who couldn't react in time to Killua's speed. Killua almost used all of his power this time, chopping Zul on the back of his neck. Zul's bones cracking sound echoed as he fell to the ground. "Damn, kid!" Zul was unwilling. He didn't understand why he lost while Killua didn't know how to use Nen. Killua realized that although Zul could use Nen, he wasn't as good as Gon. In other words, Zul wasn't close enough to be a match to Killua. This also made him want to learn Nen even more. It was now Gon's turn, and his opponent was a Nordic giant. Gon seemed like a small cat in front of a tiger. He was a little bit frightened but got over it when the fight started. The giant threw a punch at Gon, and the latter didn't avoid it. Instead, he punched back. Gon's fist seemed pitifully small compared to the giant's fist. However, the tiny fist's power was terrifying. As soon as the fists collided, the giant clutched his arms and backed away in disbelief. The audience was stunned. Unexpectedly, the little kid was so powerful. The giant once again slammed his other fist toward God. Gon punched back, and the giant's entire arm made a crisp bone-cracking sound as it directly shattered. Gon won the fight smoothly, and now it was Allan's turn. Allan's opponent was a young boy in a white karate uniform, who seemed younger than Gon and Killua. Allan was a little surprised seeing him as he knew who it was. It was Zushi. Unexpectedly, "You're my opponent?" Allan laughed. "Do you know me?" Zushi was a little puzzled. "No, it's the first time we met," Allan replied. "Okay, please advise," Zushi said politely. Allan nodded and said, "I will." Zushi heard this and said, "Please don't underestimate me, or you will regret it." Allan wasn't underestimating Zushi. After all, he knew that this kid already learned Nen at this time. Sure enough, as soon as the fight started, Zushi wrapped Nen around his body directly. Allan could see the layer of Nen wrapping around Zushi, but it was pretty weak. Allan directly appeared in front of Zushi, who was taken aback, as he couldn't react. Allan just lightly chopped Zushi on the head, making the latter fall, clenching his head in pain. "This? How is this possible? You hit me gently, but it is so powerful." Zushi couldn't believe what happened. Allan just stood in front of Zushi and said to him, "You are too weak." Chapter 132, Wing Sensei. Zushi was defeated. He was utterly defeated. When he walked out of the ring, Zushi was extremely frustrated. Allan's words still echoed in his ears. He doubted whether his effort so far was for naught. "Zushi." Zushi heard the gentle voice of his master. Wing was wearing black trousers, a white shirt, and round glasses. It seems like he didn't have time to arrange his clothes and went out a little messy. Wing-sensei, half of your shirt is hanging out again. Zushi reminded his master. Sorry, I just came out of the bathroom. Wing hurriedly arranged his clothes and looked at Zushi. Wing-sensei, sorry, I lost, Zushi said dejectedly as he couldn't look into Wing's eyes. I saw it. Zushi, don't feel dejected. Your opponent was way stronger than you are. You didn't have a chance to win against him, and I don't blame you because of this. Zushi raised his head and said, really? Yeah. Wing nodded. He saw Zushi's match, and although Allan didn't use much power, he could clearly see how strong the latter was. Wing-sensei, that person was so powerful, he just used one blow to defeat me, and even though I used all of my power, I couldn't do anything. Zushi said with fear. Moreover, that person said that I'm weak, I'm really weak, Wing-sensei. Wing pushed his glasses and said, Zushi, calm down. You're not weak. Compared to most people your age, you are a genius. It's just that person isn't at the same level as you, so he isn't wrong when he said you are weak compared to him, which means you just need to practice harder from now on. After winning the matches, Killua, Gon, and Allan run into Zushi and Wing in the corridor after receiving the money. Zushi looked at Allan, and the latter said, hello, what a coincidence. Wing-sensei, that him, Zushi said. I know. Wing nodded at Zushi and said to Allan, hello, I'm Wing, Zushi's teacher. Allan smiled and said, my name is Allan. I fought against Zushi today. I hope he doesn't mind my words. Wing said, Allan-san, you're also an Nen master, right? Yeah. Allan nodded. Wing asked, is this the first time you came to the Heaven Arena? That's right. Allan nodded and introduced Gon, Killua, and Hancock behind him. He's Gon, that's Killua, and that's my fiancé. Wing's gaze fell on Hancock. He was taken aback for a bit before saying, Allan-san's fiancé is really breathtaking. You really are blessed. After saying this, Wing's eyes fell on Gon and Killua, then pushed his glasses and said, I have seen you two fight. You performed very well. Then his gaze was fixed on Killua. Killua, from your fight previously, you're an assassin, right? Killua shrugged and said, yeah, I'm indeed one, and a professional one at that. Then looking at Gon, he said, Gon, from your fight before, you learned Nen, right? Gon nodded and asked, Wing-san, from your words, you are also an Nen user, right? Wing pushed his glasses and said, well, yes. Gon asked, Wing-san must be very strong then, right? Haha, I'm not that strong, Wing replied modestly. By the way, Gon, can I ask how long have you been learning Nen, and how much did you learn? Wing asked curiously. Allan taught me 10, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, the basics of Nen. Wing was surprised, have you already learned them all? It seems that your talent is quite good. No, it's just that Allan teaches well. Gon, who was rarely praised, touched the back of his head in embarrassment. Wing nodded and said, of course, a good teacher has a great influence on a student. After saying this, Wing looked at Zushi and said, I'm sorry, I have been teaching you for more than half a year, and you've yet to grasp the Nen of Flame. I'm really ashamed. Hearing this, Zushi said, Wing-sensei, please don't blame yourself. If you want to blame someone, it's me, who doesn't have any talent and learn slowly. Zushi. Wing-sensei. The master and student hugged each other, which seemed touching, while Allan thought of something else entirely. Are they the reincarnation of Guy and Li? Killua sighed and said, oh, you all know about Eni, but I haven't learned it yet. Allan chuckled, Killua, when we reach the 200th floor. I will keep my promise and teach you Nen. Really? Killua's eyes lit up. Of course, did I lie to you before? Allan said. Then it's settled. I will definitively reach the 200th floor very quickly. Killua was exceptionally motivated. Wing pushed his glasses and said, if Allan-san doesn't teach you, I can teach you too, Killua. Hearing this, Killua was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand why Wing was being this good to him, but he still said, thank you, Wing-san, but I still hope that Allan would teach me. It's okay, as long as you learn Nen, it doesn't matter who is the one who taught you. Wing said as he didn't mind being rejected. Allan thought of something and said, by the way, Wing-san, are you a professional hunter? Yes. Wing nodded. I know you guys. You are the candidates from the 287th hunter exam. You're currently very famous in the association. Since 8 candidates passed that exam and got a hunter license, and was referred as the Golden Generation by Chairman Netero. Chapter 133, Deal. After exchanging a few words, Allan took Allan and Gon to continue climbing the Heavens Arena. Each fight, they can climb 10 floors before they reach the 200th floor. After winning on the 50th floor, Gon, Allan, and Killua received 60,000 Jenny each. After that, Allan and the other two continued to fight and win successfully till the 90th floor. Their matches were fast since they didn't waste time and directly knocked out their opponent, and they have yet to encounter a powerful foe. Allan was looking forward to seeing their reaction when they see Hisoka. Hisoka is already above the 200th floor, so Allan was certain that they would meet him after reaching the 200th floor. Hisoka was most likely observing Gon and Killua from somewhere. At 4 in the evening, Allan, Gon, and Killua reached the 100th floor. According to the rules, contestants who reach the 100th floor can get a private room for free. However, if they lose even once, you will fall back to the 90th floor. Those, who can climb to the 100th floor, are somewhat strong, and to remain there, they will do their best to fight. They won't show mercy to their opponents. Since it was late, the three of them decided to stop climbing today and continue tomorrow. Although they are on the same floor, their rooms weren't close to each other, so each went to his room to rest. Since they each had a room, Allan took Hancock over to his room, saving accommodation costs. It has been months since Allan summoned Hancock to the Hunter x Hunter world, and she was already used to living with Allan. And even though she was disobedient at the start, she was now obedient and no longer arrogant when dealing with Allan. Allan no longer forced her to stay here and gave her control to decide whether she wants to stay here or not. After being in this world for a few months, Hancock became interested and was no longer in a hurry to return. The next day, after having breakfast, Allan and the other two continued climbing the tower. On this day, Allan, along with Gon and Killua, reached the 150th floor and won a lot of money. This continued the third day as well, and on this day, they reached the 190th floor. Allan's fights were concluded the fastest as he only needed one attack to end the battle, which gave him the nickname One Punch Man, in the Heavens Arena. In the Heavens Arena, a strong contestant will attract the audience's attention and become a celebrity. When Allan's match, the audience would mourn his opponent before the fight starts. Although Gon and Killua performed really well, their opponent became stronger and stronger, and they were no longer effortless. Even so, they gained a great response from the audience as the rising stars. They were young and strong, so of course, they are popular. When they get into the ring, the audience will call their names and cheer them. Killua was embarrassed by this, but Gon felt very good about it. After reaching the 190th floor, Allan didn't immediately rush to the 200th. Gon and Killua reached the 190th floor a week later after Allan. They performed very well, it was slightly beyond my expectations. Allan saw Hisoka looked fascinated. Are you residing on the 200th floor? Allan asked. Well, I was here a few years ago, and I'm a frequent visitor, Hisoka replied truthfully with a playful expression. Are you going to meet Gon and Killua on the 200th floor? Allan asked again. Well, it seems like I can't hide anything from you, Hisoka replied. Allan nodded and said, the 200th floor is the line between non-masters and ordinary contestants. Are you going to use baptism on them? Hisoka's face changed, you even know about this. Have you been to the 200th floor? I didn't reach there yet, but I know about it. Allan didn't explain much. Their fundamental strength is enough, so the baptism is necessary. Even though Gon has learned Nen, his Nen isn't strong enough, so I will use this opportunity to teach him that. As for Killua, he might feel the horror of Nen since he didn't learn it yet. In short, I will give both of them a good baptism. You wait and see. After saying this, Hisoka left the corridor. Chapter 134, Testing Shisui. After 2 days, Allan decided to go for the 200th floor, which means he had to win on the 190th floor. Since there were only 10 floors between the two, the contestant there weren't average. The foes from that point on are stronger than others and any challenger requires significant power to defeat them. Allan was already in place on top of the ring. Looking around, he could see the stand full of people waiting to see an amazing fight. Amongst the spectators, he could see Gon, Killua, and Hancock. There was also Zushi and Wing, and even Hisoka was there. This game will determine if Allan could advance to the 200th floor, which those who knew his power knew that he could get there easily. The audience voted for the most likely person to win, and 40% of the votes were in Allan's favor, while the remaining 60% were against him. It seems that most people here think that I'd lose. Although Allan was surprised that he only had 40% of the votes, this caused his curiosity to be piqued. Having 60% of the vote in favor of him winning, it seems like my opponent is strong. Allan directly glanced at his foe on the other side and saw a man wearing a purple yukata, a large saber on his waist, and an X-shaped scar on his face. This guy's name was Kentaro, and he is Allan's opponent in this match. According to the Heavens Arena's rules, contestants were prohibited from using weapons below the 200th floor. After reaching that floor, the rules become relaxed, allowing weapons. Kentaro held the blade's sheath with his left hand while his right hand was on the hilt, ready to draw his sword at any second. It looks like a good sword. Allan's gaze fell on the sword on Kentaro's waist and commented. I will end this match with one blow, Kentaro said in a deep voice. You seem confident. Allan smiled and said, well, since you are going to use a sword, then I will fight with a sword as well. Kentaro frowned at Allan as the latter wasn't carrying any weapon. The sword is here. Allan said before the storage ring on Allan's finger gleamed strangely. In the next instant, Shusui appeared in Allan's hand. Allan looked at Shusui apologetically since he didn't use it for a long time now. It was an excellent opportunity to use it now. Kentaro stared at Shusui in Allan's hand, and he could tell that it wasn't an ordinary sword. As for how the sword appeared in Allan's hand, Kentaro didn't care. This sword is Shusui, and it didn't taste blood for a while. No, yours is the first in a long time. Hearing Allan's words, Kentaro snorted coldly. Arrogant fellow, you will swallow your words later. The referee used his hand to gesture the beginning of the match, and instantly Kentaro drew his sword out and slashed at Allan. Allan directly lunged at him with Shusui. In a flash of light, the two passed each other in a second. Blood dripped down on the ground from Shusui as Allan turned around and looked at Kentaro. At this time, Kentaro wasn't moving at all, and suddenly the sword in his hand snapped in two. Blood dripped from Kentaro's body, and soon it formed a large patch on the ground. Silence filled the stands. They couldn't see how the fight began or how it ended. They only saw the result of the battle. Allan wasn't affected by the silence and directly looked at the referee. You can call the match. Allan glanced at Kentaro, then at the referee. After coming out of his stunned silence, the referee directly entered the ring to talk with Kentaro. Kentaro, can you continue the fight? But Kentaro didn't respond as he remained motionless. The referee realized something and touched Kentaro's shoulder. Thud. Kentaro directly fell in the pool of his blood. His eyes widened, and his expression bewildered. The referee exclaimed, dead, dead. Not only the referee but even the spectators were taken aback. Kentaro was dead. He died after a single moment by Allan's sword. When Kentaro's sword was broken, his life was taken as well. A swordsman didn't fear death since the path of a sword was filled with death. But Kentaro's expression showed shock, fear, and regret. He couldn't believe that he would die by Allan's hand. Instantly, the referee announced the winner, and Allan advanced to the 200th floor. Walking out of the ring, Gon, Killua, and the others gathered around Allan. Gon directly said, Allan, you're cruel. Killua disagreed with Gon and said, it was a good strike. Gon, you're native. I'm naive. Well, you probably don't know Kentaro, but he wanted to kill Allan in this match. Really? It's just that he wasn't as strong as Allan, so he was killed. If he were stronger, Allan would be the one dead. Gon nodded without saying anything as if he understood something. But then again, Allan, I didn't expect you to be so good with words. How many things are you hiding? Killua asked curiously. Swordsmanship is just a hobby. Allan laughed. After chatting for a bit, Allan and Hancock went away, which Hancock took the chance to ask Allan, I seem to know the sword that you have. Allan shrugged and said, you have good eyes. This is Shusui, one of the Owazumano series. It's a product from your world. No wonder it looks familiar. Hancock nodded and didn't question Allan from where he got it because she knew he wouldn't answer. Chapter 135, Baptism. After successfully advancing to the 200th floor, Allan directly went up to register. Each contestant had a luxury suite on this floor, but that suite will be taken back if you fall from the 200th floor. Therefore, many contestants fight desperately to maintain the luxury they got. In addition to this, there were no bonuses from now onwards. It didn't matter if the contestant won or lost. They won't receive any money. You're finally here. After registering at the information desk, Allan saw Hisoka in the hallway. Hisoka smiled at Allan. I watched your match and was surprised that you're a swordsman. I didn't know you have that many cards up your sleeve. Allan shrugged. Swordsmanship is just one of my hobbies. As for other hidden cards, you will see that later. Then I will wait. Hisoka replied and then gazed at Allan. I look forward to that day. Allan asked, you want to fight me? If there is a chance, I would be happy to, wouldn't you? Hisoka said with interest. He's a fighting maniac who doesn't back down from a fight. Allan thought helplessly. Ding. Make a choice. 1. Agree to fight with Hisoka. Reward, increase NAN by 5,000 points. 2. Refuse to fight Hisoka. Reward, increase NAN by 3,000 points. 3. Agree to fight Hisoka and defeat him. Reward. Faced with the rewards, Allan naturally, mysteriously, picked the last one. After pondering for a bit, Allan said, Hisoka, I can promise to fight you, but not now. No problem, as long as you agree, there will be a time in the future. Hisoka smiled. At the moment, I'm more interested in Gon and Killua. I don't know when they will come up. Allan replied, they already applied for a match. It will be the afternoon after tomorrow. With their current power, it shouldn't be hard to advance. When the time comes, you will have to handle this. Of course, I will give them a surprise. Hisoka smiled as he narrowed his eyes. 2 days later, Gon and Killua successfully passed the 190th floor and advanced. Both of them reached the 200th floor with ease with no pressure all along. This made them feel strong and complacent. Of course, this is normal because it took them less than 2 weeks to advance to the 200th floor. The two of them took the elevator to the 200th floor to register, because according to the rules, whoever doesn't register within the specified time limit will have to go back to the first floor again. And since this was Killua's second time in the Heavens Arena, he wouldn't be able to get in again. As they walked out of the elevator, both felt a strong aura oppressing them and hindering them from moving forward. Damn it, who is releasing such a frightening killing intent? As a professional assassin, Killua was far more sensitive than Gon when it comes to killing intent, and to his surprise and horror, this killing intent wasn't any weaker than Illumi's. In other words, the person releasing it was as strong as Illumi. Killua, hide behind me. Gon suddenly said. Why? Killua looked at Gon in confusion. This killing intent is laced in NAN. I can use NAN to ease the oppression. As he said this, Gon instantly released his NAN to block the killing intent. After seeing this, Killua's face changed, but he didn't hide behind Gon and instead said, Gon, go ahead and register first. Killua said. What about you, Killua? Gon asked puzzledly. I don't want to hide behind you and be protected by you. I don't want to be looked down upon by someone my age. Killua, I'm not looking down on you. The other person can use NAN, and it's disadvantageous for you to face him like this. That's why I asked you to hide behind me. Faced with Gon's kindness, Killua shook his head and said, no, I have to rely on myself. Killua is right, Gon. You should go register first. A playful voice echoed in the corridor as the strong killing intent disappeared. Killua felt relieved while Gon stopped using NAN and frowned. When he saw Hisoka appearing at the end of the corridor, Gon exclaimed, Hisoka. Killua also noticed Hisoka and was a little surprised. Haha, it's been a long time, Gon, Killua. Hisoka greeted them with a smile and then sat down with his back against the wall. Hisoka, why are you here? Gon asked. Hisoka played with his cards and said, this is the holy land of fighters, and I admire fighting the most. Isn't it normal for me to be here? Killua frowned and said, Hisoka, you were the one using killing intent just now. Hisoka nodded, bingo, correct answer, but there is no reward. Why are you doing this? We have no conflict with you, right? Killua frowned. Hisoka smiled, I just want to see how much you've grown. You're just bullying us, Killua shouted. Killua, I didn't expect you to be so naive. Did you forget where we are? This is the Heavens Arena. In this place, everyone is hostile against each other. Preventing you from registering is just removing an obstacle. Hearing this, Killua was speechless. Gon looked at Hisoka and said, Hisoka, Killua hasn't learned Nen yet. It's unfair that you're using Nen to deal with him. Just get out of the way and let us register. Hisoka shook his head, Gon, this is the baptism of Nen. Every contestant who reaches the 200th floor has to go through it. When confronting my killing intent previously, you dealt with it well, so you can go and register. As for Killua, he isn't qualified to pass yet. No, Killua must go with me. With this said, Gon pulled Killua over. However, Killua shook Gon's hand and said, Gon, Hisoka is right. I'm not qualified to pass yet. You go register first. But Killua, what will you do? I will pass before midnight, anyway. You should go first. Killua was determined, and there is no way Gon could change his mind. Hisoka looked at Killua in surprise and said, So, Killua, do you want to stay and try or go back first? Hisoka, wait here for me. Before midnight, I will be back. Leaving those words behind, Killua turned around and left. I'm waiting for you, Killua, Hisoka said playfully. After Killua left, Allan's figure appeared from the end of the corridor. Hisoka saw him and smiled, How about it, is the baptism to your liking? Killua looked pissed off. Chapter 136, Learning Nen. Allan nodded at Hisoka. He was already here when Gon and Killua arrived and witnessed the whole ordeal. Facing Hisoka killing intent laced with Nen, Gon's reaction was good, and Allan felt that his effort wasn't wasted. As for Killua, he didn't learn Nen yet, so he had no way to deal with Hisoka's killing intent. But as long as Allan trains him, he will quickly pass. Now, Killua should realize that his power isn't enough. Allan laughed. So, what are you going to do now? Hisoka asked. Ding! Make a choice. 1. Bet with Hisoka that Killua will pass the baptism. Reward, increase Nen by 2000 points. 2. Bet with Hisoka that Killua will pass the baptism within a limited time. Reward, increase Nen by 5000 points. Allan pondered for a moment and said, Hisoka, how about a bet? What are we betting on? We bet whether I can help Killua pass through here before midnight. Hearing this, Hisoka looked Allan in the eyes and asked, Do you plan on helping him open the pores on his body and learn Nen in such a short time? Well, with his qualification, it should be possible, Allan said. But, there is less than 3 hours left before midnight. It's not easy to help him in such a short time. Hisoka said. Allan shrugged, You don't need to worry. Isn't that what a bet all about? Whoever wins gets 10 million Jenny. Hisoka thought for a bit before nodding with interest, Well, I will accept the bet. Allan was overjoyed. He didn't expect Hisoka would agree to this and directly nodded, Well, I will go find Killua now. You wait for him here, I think you'd be surprised. At this time, Killua, who came down from the 200th floor, met Zushi and Wing. He didn't know whether it was a coincidence or not. Seeing Killua's sad face, Wing pushed his glasses and said with a smile, Looking at you, I can tell you're in trouble. Can I help you? No need. Killua shook his head. You probably encountered someone who had Nen, right? As a result, you couldn't go to register on the 200th floor. Hearing this, Killua looked at Wing in surprise, How do you know? As long as a contestant reach the 200th floor, he will be faced with that problem. Without Nen, they won't be able to pass and register. But since Gon mastered Nen, he successfully passed through and went to register first, while you couldn't, right? Wing's words were like needles that pierced straight to Killua's heart. He lowered his head with an ugly expression on his face. He felt humiliated and a deep sense of powerlessness. What made it even more hurtful was that his friend Gon, who was the same age as him, learned Nen before him and successfully registered while he couldn't. This made it even more unacceptable for him. Killua, if you don't mind, I can help you. Help me? Well, I can help you master the basics of Nen, and at that time, you will be qualified to go and enter the 200th floor. Upon hearing this, Killua was a little moved. At this time, Allan just came down from the 200th floor and ran into Killua and Wing conversing. Seeing Allan appear, Killua's eyes lit up as if he found his savior. Killua, where is Gon? Allan asked, pretending not to know what happened. Killua told Allan about the baptism, and after hearing him, Allan nodded, well, come with me, I will help you with Nin. Okay, I will be in your care, Killua said gratefully. Don't worry. I always keep my promises. Allan said. During the hunter exam, he promised to teach Killua, and now he was ready to fulfill his promise. Wing-san, I'm sorry, I'm leaving now. Killua turned to Wing and apologized. Well, I hope you can pass smoothly. Wing smiled as he didn't mind being rejected by Killua. Watching Killua leave with Allan, Zushi, who was standing beside the Wing, couldn't help ask, Wing-sensei, Killua rejected your kindness, aren't you angry? Of course not. Wing shook his head gently. On the other side, Allan took Killua to his private suite on the 200th floor. When they entered the suite, Allan directly said, Killua, due to limited time, I will briefly explain Nin to you. I will later use my Nin to open your pores and stimulate you Nin forcefully. After that, you will need to control it yourself. Okay. Killua nodded seriously. Even though what Allan said seemed simple, it wasn't that easy to do. Freely manipulating the life energy emitted from the body is what is called Nin. There are two ways to open up the pores on the body to access that energy. The first one uses meditation to feel and control your life energy, and the second method is opening those pores forcefully through external force. Because of the limited time, Killua couldn't just sit down and meditate, so Allan decided to use the second method. Allan put his hand on Killua's back, stopping a few centimeters before touching him. Killua, relax. I'm going to use Nin now. At the next second, Allan's Nin surged through Killua's body and forcefully opening every pore on the way. For an instant, Killua felt tremendous power gushing through his body continuously. It looks like it's successful. Allan smiled. Is this Nin? Killua raised his hand. At this time, he could clearly see the white aura bursting out of his body. This is amazing, Killua exclaimed. Because the pores on your eyes are open as well, you can see Nin, Allan explained. Is it done now? Killua asked. Allan shook his head slightly, no, this is just the first step. Next, you need to calm down and manipulate that energy, and press it down so it can't surge out and leave your body. If you don't control it, then your life energy will keep on draining until you collapse and die. Control it? Let me try. Soon, Killua calmed his emotion and began controlling the life energy gushing out of his body. He was worthy of being a professional assassin. His control over his emotion was top-notch. Chapter 137, Challenging Hisoka. Under Allan's guidance, Killua quickly controlled his Nin smoothly. Now that you learned how to use 10, you can maintain your current state and challenge Hisoka. Is this really enough? Well, you should feel it already. You're already different from the past, and blocking his killing intent won't be a problem. Allan assured Killua, who thanked him gratefully and left to register on the 200th floor. Hisoka was leaning on the wall in the corridor leading to the registration window playing with his cards, and Gon was there as well. Gon, don't you want to go search for Killua? Hisoka asked. No, I believe that Killua will come here soon. Gon said firmly. Time passed slowly, and half an hour before midnight, Killua arrived. Oh! Seeing the aura around Killua's body, Hisoka was slightly surprised, but his expression turned playful soon. Gon finally relaxed as he saw Killua. Come on, Hisoka, I won't back down this time. Killua looked directly at Hisoka and challenged him. Okay, let's see if you can pass through here. Hisoka raised his hand and used Nin. A strong killing intent mixed with Nin erupted and filled the corridor. Killua didn't back down and blocked it with his Nin without flinching. Good job. Seeing that Killua successfully blocked his killing intent, Hisoka smiled, well, how about going up a notch? Hisoka used Hatsu to form a wall of Nin in front of Killua. To pass, Killua had to break through the wall. The corridor wasn't long, but it became harder for Killua to move forward with each step he took because Hisoka's Nin got stronger the closer Killua got. However, Killua didn't give up. He moved forward through the wall of Nin step by step and finally reached Hisoka. Hisoka looked at Killua and smiled, good job, Killua. Stop talking nonsense. I am qualified to stay on the 200th floor now, right? Killua looked at Hisoka coldly. Of course, since you learned the basic of Nin, but there is still a large room to improve. Hisoka laughed. Killua snorted coldly, you wait and see, sooner or later, I will master Nin. Nen is a profound art, and it's not simple to learn, don't be too proud, or you will fail. Killua didn't appreciate Hisoka's reminder at all, and at this time, Gon directly came over and said, Killua, you need to register, quickly. Hisoka stood up and said, okay, then I will go first. Have a good time. We will see each other again. Stop Hisoka! Gon called out. What is it? Hisoka stopped. Gon replied, I want to challenge you to a fight. Hearing this, Hisoka smiled, ha ha ha, are you serious, Gon? Of course. Gon said firmly. Hisoka smiled, well, if you can win 10 matches on the 200th floor, I'm willing to accept your challenge. No problem, just wait and see. Gon agreed without thinking. I will see you then. Hisoka directly left. After Killua finished his registration, he came back only to find out that Gon challenged Hisoka. He looked at Gon speechlessly for a while before he reprimanded, you idiot, you can't beat Hisoka as you are. But I want to fight him. That guy actually dared to bully us because we are young. I want to fight him and punch him hard in the face. Seeing Gon waving his fist, Killua was amused, haha, Gon, you are really an idiot. Do you know how terrifying Hisoka is? You actually said you want to beat him. Gon's face was serious, I have already talked to Hisoka. As long as I can win 10 matches on the 200th floor, he is willing to fight me. Killua was surprised. He knew that Gon was straightforward and very stubborn, so he couldn't say anything to change his mind. By the way, Gon, do you know how difficult it is to win 10 times above the 200th floor? Gon scratched the back of his head and said, it doesn't matter, does it? I will give it all I have, and we can become stronger, right? If we don't try, how can we become stronger? Okay. Killua was defeated. On the other side, Allan also knew about Killua passing Hisoka's test and Gon challenging him. He went to meet Hisoka to get his 10 million geni after he won the bet with Hisoka. Hisoka transferred the money and said, Allan, this is the first time I actually bet with someone and lost. Allan replied, you lost because you underestimated an amazing talent, and you underestimated me as well. Ha ha ha, it seems so. However, if I bet with you again, I will definitively win. Hisoka said. What do you want to bet on? Allan asked curiously. We bet on whether Gon can win 10 games on the 200th floor in 5 months or not. Hisoka suggested before continuing, it won't be easy for Gon to win 10 matches with his current power. Allan said, if he wins 10 games, then he can challenge a floor master, so that means you're a floor master, right, Hisoka? Yes. Hisoka nodded. I don't think that Gon can win 10 matches, Hisoka said. Then let's bet on that, Allan said. Okay. Hisoka nodded. So, if Gon can win 10 matches in 3 months, I will win. On the other hand, if he doesn't, you will win. Hisoka nodded again as he accepted that. 5 months isn't short, but it's not long as well. We will wait and see. Hisoka said. We bet 100 million geni, Hisoka, don't go back on your words if you lose. Allan said, and Hisoka laughed. I won't lose to you this time. Hisoka looked at Allan's back as the latter left and thought. Chapter 138, Three-Way Match. The rules of the matches above the 200th floor are completely different from the 190th, as the matches weren't randomly arranged. Each person needs to fight a match in 3 months, or else that person would be disqualified and drop down. Regarding the promotion from each floor, each person needs to win 10 games in total to ascend, but if they lose 4 games before winning 10, they will lose their qualification to continue. Winning 10 games allows anyone to challenge the floor master. Each floor from the 220th to the 250th floor is owned by a floor master. Floor masters can participate in Battle Olympia, where the winner gets to live on the 251st floor. Because there is a lot of time currently, Allan intends to stay in the Heavens Arena for a while, so he wasn't in a hurry to fight. The rooms provided here are luxurious, and it saves a lot of money. It was quite a good place for Allan since he also could watch the fights in here. The next morning, Gon and Killua found Allan and ate breakfast together with Hancock. I hope you can continue teaching me, Nen. Killua was straightforward with his request. No problem. Allan naturally agreed since he still had a mission to complete. As for Gon, he didn't ask for Allan's training because he already mastered the basics and what he lacks is combat experience. So he decided to apply for a match to improve while fighting. At the same time, he was preparing to win 10 matches and challenge Hisoka. Allan agreed and then asked Hancock to go back first. He accompanied Gon to the reception with Killua to apply for a match. When they reached the reception, they found 3 people there. Allan wasn't surprised because he already noticed those 3 guys. He knew they were targeting them as soon as they reached the 200th floor. Allan looked at the 3 weirdly dressed guys and sneered. They were the trio who targeted newcomers in the show. They were Gido, Ryuudan, and Seidaso. They weren't strong. At best, they can bully newcomers. They are aware of their weakness, so they specifically look for newcomers who don't have much experience fighting. Right now, Allan, Gon, and Killua were undoubtedly newcomers. Therefore, they are eyeing them. Allan remained unmoved and asked, "What's the matter with you 3? We are also here to apply for our matches," Ryuudan said. Killua heard this and glanced at them coldly and said, "You see that we are newcomers, so you think we are easy to bully? Planning on applying for a match along with us so you can fight us later?" The 3 didn't expect Killua to see through their ploy and say it. Seidaso was slightly embarrassed as he said, "Hehe, now that you know about it, what will you do?" Ding! Make a choice. 1. Directly kill those 3 now. Reward, increase NAN by 3000 points. 2. Join Gon and Killua in a 3 vs 3 battle against Seidaso and the others and kill them. Reward, Golden Treasure Chest x1. Seeing the reward, Allan picked the second option without hesitation. Compared to killing them here, killing them on stage is generous. Since you want to fight newcomers, let's fight then. Hearing this, the trio glanced at each other and couldn't believe their ears. Are you sure? Allan nodded, of course, there are 3 of us on our side and 3 on your side. Let's have a 3 vs 3 match. 3 vs 3 match? What do you mean? Seidaso asked. It's team battle, Allan replied. The Heavens Arena doesn't have that type of battle, only 1 vs 1. As long as all of us apply for such a match, they will accept. Seidaso discussed this with the others for a while. Do you have anything to say? Allan looked at Gon and Killua and asked. Killua was already dissatisfied with those 3, so he shrugged, no problem. Gon said, I also don't have any problem. As long as I can fight, it doesn't matter who my opponent is. Okay, it's decided then. At this moment, Allan, Gon, and Killua, with the other trio, applied for a 3 vs 3 match. There was no precedent for that kind of battle in the Heavens Arena, and after some discussion between the officials of the Heavens Arena, they agreed to the match. The officials wanted to use this opportunity to gauge the audience's reaction to this kind of battle. The battle will be in 10 days, and in those 10 days, the Heavens Arena will promote this new kind of match to attract as many spectators as possible. Chapter 139, Compete Victory. 10 days later, the team battle officially started. On the Heavens Arena 212th floor, Allan, Gon, and Killua were on one side of the ring, while Gido, Seidaso, and Ryuudan were on the other side. The place was filled with people as this was the first ever team battle in the Heavens Arena, and more than 8,000 spectators were here to watch it. If it wasn't for a limited space, more than 10,000 people would be on the stands. Therefore, the Heavens Arena opened a broadcast mode so that whoever couldn't enter the arena could still see what happened. Inside the ring, the 2 teams were ready. Seidaso looked at Allan and said, Do you plan to fight all together, or one-on-one separately? Do as you like. We don't care. Allan shrugged. Then, let's go one-on-one. Since you are newcomers, we will let you decide who you want to fight. Allan smiled at the confidence of the trio. He looked at Gon and said, Gon, who do you want to fight? I will pick Gido. Gon said. Allan looked at Killua and asked, What about you, Killua? Seidaso, Killua said. Allan nodded. Since they both picked their opponent, he was left with Ryuudan. The game soon started. Allan and Killua moved back to the edge of the ring to watch the match. Seidaso and Ryuudan did the same and retreated. Gon and Gido moved to the center of the ring, and the match started. Gido instantly launched 10 of his NAN-enhanced tops from his sleeves. The 10 tops surrounded Gon as they span crazily under Gido's control. Facing the fast-moving tops, Gon decisively twisted his body and vigilantly looked at the spinning tops. At this moment, a top attacked Gon from behind and slammed on his back at high speed. One after the other, Gon's back was hit constantly by the tops. Gon groaned painfully as if he was hit by a car. The impact from the tops was unexpectedly strong. Fortunately, Gon used Ren to improve his defense, and this helped him defend against the tops. However, because Giddo landed a hit on Gon, he gained 2 points. According to the rules, whoever can accumulate 10 points first win. Gon didn't care at all. His gaze caught up to the spinning tops around him, trying to capture their trajectory. Facing so many spinning tops at the same time, Gon knew that he wouldn't be able to see all of them with his eyes. At this time, Giddo launched another attack. When the top was about to land on Gon's unprotected back, the latter sensed something and moved sideways, easily escaping from the attack. Humph! Giddo immediately manipulated the tops to attack Gon again. Gon's eyes saw the top moving from his left and directly kicked it. Boom! The top was sent away by Gon's kick. What? Giddo was shocked. Gon blocked his sneak attack and sent his top out of the ring. As soon as it landed outside the ring, the top quickly stopped spinning and fell. You still have 9 more. Gon glanced at the remaining tops around him. Asshole, you dare destroy my tops. Seeing one of his tops destroyed, Giddo was furious. At this moment, 3 tops collided behind Gon and rushed toward him. Gon fought back for the first time as he clenched his fist and punched the spinning top. Boom! The top was destroyed again, and at this time, another 2 tops collided with each other and rushed toward him. Gon directly jumped up, avoiding the tops before kicking them fiercely. Another 2 tops were destroyed. 6 remaining. Gon landed on the ring and once again kicked another top. In less than a minute, Gon destroyed 5 spinning tops from the original 10, which made Giddo furious. He finally figured out that Gon was planning on destroying all of his tops. Damn fellow, I'm going to kill you. Since his beloved spinning tops were destroyed one after the other, Giddo planned on killing Gon. Suddenly 5 tops surrounded Gon, cornering him. They are faster than before and seem more powerful as well. Gon thought. If he is hit once, Gon wouldn't be able to defend against them. He directly activated his Ren and then erupted around him like crazy. Seeing this, Giddo was surprised. He didn't expect Gon to not only know 10, but also Ren. If using 10 can greatly increase defense, Ren can increase explosive power and durability to another height. Right now, Giddo was feeling panic. Feeling fearful of Gon's power, Giddo took the lead and attacked in one full swoop intending to kill him. The 5 tops hit Gon at high speed from different directions. Gon shouted violently as the 5 tops slammed against his body, but it was like hitting an iron wall. What? Giddo's eyes widened. Then Gon waved his hands and hit the spinning tops one after the other. All the spinning tops were destroyed. A madman! You're a madman! Giddo shouted. Gon's actions were indeed crazy. When he knew that he couldn't avoid the spinning tops, he just defended with his body. However, Gon didn't care. Instead, he looked at Giddo triumphantly. Your tops were defeated. You're next. Gon looked at Giddo and rushed toward him. Giddo snorted, do you think that you can defeat me by destroying my tops? That's naive. The next instant, Giddo started spinning quickly like a large spinning top. Seeing this, Gon stopped his momentum. If he rushed in carelessly, he would definitively be knocked up into the air. Gon gathered Nen into his right fist and directly punched at the human spinning top. Boom! With a loud noise, Giddo was blown away out of the ring. His entire chest sank, and his eyes were white. Gon knocked him out with one punch. Giddo's companions looked at this dumbfoundedly. They never thought that Gon was so powerful. Good job, Gon. Killua looked at Gon and said. Gon felt guilty and said, it seems like I accidentally killed Giddo. Killua replied, he deserves it. Allan on the side looked at Gon and commented, Gon, although that move was strong, it took too much time to accumulate Nen, so you need to use it with caution in the future. I think you should train in that skill for a long time so you can use it quickly. Gon nodded at Allan's advice. The game wasn't over, it was the first match of 3, and immediately, it was Killua's turn. Killua moved to the center of the ring coolly. When Seidasso saw Giddo die, he was no longer confident. Seidasso stared at Killua, not daring to look down on him. Go to hell! Shadow Snake Hand! Two black snakes sprung from Seidaso's sleeves and launched an attack at Killua. Killua's figure flashed as he disappeared from his position. Seidaso was shocked as he saw Killua's image around him and could only order his snakes to attack. Killua was using Rhythm Echo, the assassination skill that confuses an opponent's eyes into seeing after images even though the user is walking. Seidaso was frightened and couldn't even react as Killua appeared behind him suddenly, and with a simple move from Killua's hand, Seidaso's heart separated from his body. Seidaso's heart was still beating in Killua's hand. Seidaso looked in shock as he fell to the ground and died. The audience was stunned. They couldn't think that a 12-year-old boy could be that cruel. As Killua returned back to Gon and Allan's side, Gon said, "Killua, you didn't have to kill him, right?" Killua shrugged, "Gon, this is the Heavens Arena, it's only about winning and losing, regardless of life and death. Besides, Seidaso is more than guilty. What do you think happened to all newcomers after they reached the 200th floor?" Gon couldn't refute Killua's words. He already accidentally killed Kido, so he wasn't qualified to say otherwise to Killua. So he shut up obediently. "Next, it's your turn, Allan." Killua changed the subject, and Allan nodded and walked onto the center of the ring. There was only one person left, who was very afraid right now, since his two companions died. Facing Allan, Ryuudan wanted to admit defeat directly, but he thought that maybe Allan wasn't as strong as the other two, and he had a chance. "Let me try the power of a new skill on you," Allan said suddenly. "What?" Ryuudan didn't know what Allan was thinking, but he directly assumed a defensive position. Almost instantly, Allan's figure disappeared and appeared behind Ryuudan. Blue lightning danced in Allan's hand, making 1,000 birds chirping sound. Before Ryuudan could react, the Chidori penetrated his chest, killing him instantly. Allan pulled out his hand and glanced at the corpse and thought, "Chidori is really great. It could one-shot almost anyone if it landed." Allan's performance surprised the audience, including Gon and Killua. Gon and Killua didn't think that Allan was that strong. It was really an eye-opener for them. The audience didn't expect three from the same team to die so easily. All that mattered in the Heavens Arena was winning, and death was a normal occurrence here. The three of them dying can be attributed to them being too weak. After that battle, Gon, Killua, and Allan made a name for themselves with just one match. They called them the Three Evil Stars now. It means that they killed their opponent without mercy and decisively. After the match, Allan won his golden treasure chest and was eager to open it. Chapter 140, Target and Opponent. After parting with Gon and Killua for a while, Allan turned back toward the arena and asked the staff where the bodies were. The staff directly said that they were brought to the morgue of a local hospital. Allan directly left the Heavens Arena and changed his appearance along the way. This was the skill Allan got in the Hunter exam, Disguise. It allowed him to easily change his appearance. At the moment, Allan was disguised as a familiar person, Illumi. Soon after, Allan arrived at the hospital's first floor and was stunned by the guards and stuff inside. They didn't block Allan, so he easily went to the morgue and searched for the trio's bodies. Finding them, Allan directly activated his predator skill. Allan felt like he became like a vacuum cleaner as his hand swallowed the nin of the trio. As soon as he started using that skill, Allan was forced into Zetsu state and couldn't use nin. Fortunately, the predation process was fast, and in less than a minute, Allan felt his nin increase. Allan's skill worked on a single target, and the first target was Seidaso's corpse. After the absorption ended, Allan could tell that his nin increases by 3,000 points. As for why there were so few points, Allan felt it was because Seidaso was dead, and nin was a kind of life energy that dissipated with time after death. So much of his nin dissipated after an hour of his death. Without further ado, Allan directly activated the skill on the other two, one after the other. After finishing the absorption, Allan could tell that there wasn't much difference between Seidaso and the other two. This was the first time Allan used the Predator skill, so no matter how small the amount of nin he absorbed, it was worth it. Adding the three of them, he took 9,000 nin point. Of course, using the Predator skill was risky, but he dared to use it on them because he knew they were cowards. There is no way those cowards would use the restraints of nin. And he was right about that. After leaving the hospital, Allan lifted his disguise and changed to his original appearance before returning to the Heavens Arena. Allan remembered that the last time he got a golden treasure chest, he received Chidori. And he looked forward to what will come this time. Ding! You opened a golden treasure chest and received Fishman Karate secret skill, Buraken, Vagabond Drill. Is this Jimmy I's Buraken? The skill that can send a shockwave through anyone by targeting the water in a person's body that can ignore defense. Of course, this skill wasn't all that good for the current Allan, but it was better than nothing. After the team battle, Killua and Allan didn't apply for further matches. Killua used the time he had to learn from Allan all about Nin. Allan acted as Killua's training partner all this time and practiced with him. Gon was injured by the spinning tops and was hospitalized for about half a month. Originally, his injury should at least take 3 months for him to recover, but Gon's regeneration was abnormal. When he stayed in the hospital, Gon couldn't participate in any matches as the high intensity of the fights would damage his body further before full recovery. So he practiced along with Killua and acted as the latter's training partner under Allan's supervision. Killua made rapid progress in his Nin training and almost mastered the basics of Nin. However, since he just learned Nin for a short while, his use of it was masterful yet. In that regard, Gon was better since he started using Nin for half a year already. As for Allan, he would train with Gon for a while before taking Hancock to watch the fights in the arena. As for training Nin, there was no need for special training at his current level, and he should pay attention to the amount of Nin and his control of it instead. After a while, Gon applied for his second match, and on the day of the match, Allan brought 3 tickets to watch the battle. This time, Gon's opponent was Yamamaru, a strong man but seemed overweight. He has a record of 3 wins and 1 defeat, so he was more famous than Gon, who was a fledgling rookie. But many people supported Gon. After all, he could kill someone with just 1 punch, which was something all the audience couldn't forget. As soon as the match started, Yamamaru rushed toward Gon. Seeing this and being as stubborn as he is, Gon faced his head on. Boom! Gon's small body actually blocked Yamamaru's huge body. Gon only stepped back half a meter before stopping Yamamaru's charge. This made the audience who supported Gon explode in cheers. Gon used Ren to resist Yamamaru's attacks, who was fierce despite his look. In terms of strength, both were equally matched, but to break the stalemate, Yamamaru directly lifted his hand and slapped Gon on his stomach. Gon let out a painful cry, but he wasn't sent flying or knocked down unexpectedly. An astonishing amount of Nin emerged from Gon's body as his anger exploded. With this, Gon's power skyrocketed, thrusting Yamamaru's huge body backward before falling. Gon actually defeated Yamamaru in terms of strength, which made the audience dumbstruck. But the fight didn't end, as Yamamaru, who fell out of the ring, climbed back up and quickly returned to the ring. He was angry and couldn't bear losing to a kid, so he decisively let loose his Nin and instantly overwhelmed Gon with his huge build. However, Gon was scared. Instead, he felt excited. The stronger his opponent, the stronger he would get. Boom! 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 The battle continued as both landed hits on each other for a while. After 20 minutes, the game finally came to an end. Gon managed to force Yamamaru out of the ring once again and knock him out. Gon didn't win because he was stronger than Yamamaru, but because he was more determined and his willpower was astonishing. After the battle, Gon was hospitalized for another week or so. It was unavoidable since, in the battle with Yamamaru, he was exhausted and hit a few times. As for Yamamaru, he would need half a year before he could have a rematch. After recovering, Gon participated in the third match, and his opponent's record was the same as his. 2 wins and 0 losses. His opponent's name was Kenji Ichiro. Allan took Hancock to watch the match. As for Killua, he wanted to catch up as soon as possible, so he refused to attend and continued training. Needless to say, as long as Gon's opponent wasn't stronger than him by much, he wouldn't lose. In the end, Allan was surprised as Gon won his match. The battle didn't take long. Even though both seemed to have the same record, Gon improved the most when he was fighting, and it didn't take him long to win the fight. So far, Gon won 3 matches without losing once. Gon was trying his best because he wanted to fight Hisoka. Gon had 5 months to win 10 games and challenge Hisoka. He even put a mark on his calendar for that day. Now, he won 3 games and still needs to win 7 more in 4 months. Gon didn't feel tired or had any thought of retreating from this challenge. He was even firmer than before. Therefore, he soon applied for his 4th match, and unexpectedly, Killua applied for a match as well. Killua hadn't participated in any matches since the team battle, but now he wanted to see the result of his training. Gon and Killua weren't matched against each other, to the disappointment of the spectators, since they were eager to see the two of them fight. But their matches still attracted many people at the end. Gon won 3 games, and many people thought he would win his 4th, but Gon encountered a strong opponent. His opponent was much stronger than the last 3 games and not at the same level at all. When Allan saw Gon's opponent, he couldn't help but freeze because his opponent was actually Castro. Castro was the person who challenged Hisoka and was killed in the ring. Although Hisoka killed him, it didn't mean that Castro was weak. In fact, he was quite strong. Hisoka may have won and killed him, but his hands were cut. Allan knew that Gon wouldn't be able to win this match. At this time, Castro looked really calm. He looked at Gon and said, "I have watched your previous games, you were very good." Faced with Castro's appreciation, Gon looked at him in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, but I want to win this match as well." "Quite brave," Castro said with a smile. After a few seconds, the match started. Gon discovered that both he and Castro were enhancers, and first time, Gon felt exhausted and overwhelmed. He used Ten, Ren, and Hatsu one after the other in quick succession just as the match started and was feeling quite tired.